Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aviwe Pupuma. As Dr. Crafford has just pointed out, I'll be working, my thesis is on women in construction pioneering in a man's world. My presentation is divided into sections, several sections. First of all, we'll have the introduction and the objectives and the literature review, followed by the methodology and explanation of the results. And that will be followed by the conclusions and the recommendations that I've made. And I will open the panel to questions. The South African construction industry has been labeled as the most untransformed developed sector in the industry, as it is still dominated by white male management. Young people start playing with the idea of career choices typically at the age of 16 when they are choosing their subject choices in high school prior to higher education considerations. The number of women employed in the construction industry decreases annually. A study that was shown in Industry Insight showed that the ladies that were in the construction industry during the years of 2011 and 2012 decreased by 0.9% from 108,000 to 107,000. The Canadian study shows that girls are systematically diverted away from science and construction careers. There are various barriers to entry. Discrimination due to gender bias misconceptions and work environment of the site, as well as the lack of preceding role models, perceives a negative influence towards entry by the females. The objectives of the study are to determine the factors contributing to the career choices of female quantity surveyors, architects, and construction managers, to determine the factors contributing to career expectations and career success, and determine whether national culture and upbringing of women influences their choices of careers in the construction industry. Lent, Brown, and Hackett's social cognitive career theory states that the career choices is influenced by the beliefs that the person develops or acquires through 4 phases. These 4 phases include personal performance, vicarious learning, social persuasion, as well as psychological states and reactions. The theory states that these 4 aspects work together in a career development process. This process then develops the person's experience and ability for a particular venture. As a result, one is likely to develop continued interest in the industry that they choose. The factors influencing the career decision-making of young females includes parents, teachers, and guidance counselors, and a sense of isolation. Uncertainties with issues such as physical nature of the work, social dynamics of working in a male-dominated industry, the availability of career paths following completion of apprentice training. Other factors include other family members, the peers, the exposure to experiences, the recognition of own aptitudes and preferences, as well as the exposure to role models. Career expectations and career success. Unmet expectations lead to low job satisfaction and early retirement. A solution would be the exposure to employers through recruitment and selection processes. This facilitates the employers to making appropriate career expectations. And career expectations can be directly linked to career success. Career success can be grouped into 4 main areas of forecasters, namely human capital, the individual, interpersonal, and family. When the career expectations of recent graduates are met, a sense of career success is achieved. Culture. The Hofstede's model of National culture identifies 6 dimensions of culture, of national culture, the first one being power distance. The power distance would be the degree to which less powerful organizations accept or expect that power is not distributed equally. Uncertainty avoidance. This indicates to what extent the culture programs its members to feel comfortable or uncomfortable in unstructured situations. The third dimension is individualism versus collectivism. Collectivism is the degree to which people in a society are integrated and are strong and cohesive. Individualism is where the cultures in which the ties between the individuals are loose. The fourth dimension, masculinity versus femininity. This refers to the distribution of values between the genders in a society. Long-term and short-term orientation. Long-term, it refers to a society that adopts virtues orientated to future rewards, whereas the short-term society adopts virtues orientated to past and the present. The sixth and final dimension includes indulgence versus restraints. Indulgence represents a society that allows natural human desires related to enjoying life and having fun. And restraint refers to a society that controls the fulfillment of those needs by strict social norms. The methodology of the research. A quantitative study was conducted. A graduate list was obtained from the Department of the Built Environment. The population and sample sizes were 208. 42 responses were obtained from the NMMU graduates. The response rate was 20.2%. Several steps to increase the response were taken by the means of reminder emails that were sent in intervals of weekly intervals of 6 weeks, and other means of communication such as the social media. I used Facebook and I used LinkedIn in order to remind the respondents to answer the questionnaires. A purpose-designed electronic web survey was used as a data collection tool. The questionnaire consisted of 4 sections. Section A covered the demographics. Section B covered the factors that are influencing career choices of females. Section C covered career expectations and career success. And Section D covered national culture. The questionnaire was pre-tested and then it was approved. The questionnaires were distributed via email to female graduates from the NMMU in the fields of construction management, quantity surveying, and architecture. Descriptive statistics were used to analyze the data by means of the mode, the standard deviation, and the relative importance index. Scale factors that were used. The career influences were ranked on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being no influence and 5 being most influential. The career success factors were ranked from 1 to 5, 1 being not important and 5 being very important. And lastly, the national culture factors were ranked on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being not important and 5 being very important. As you can see, 64% of the respondents were quantity surveying graduates, 29% were architecture graduates, and 7% were construction management graduates. The results that were obtained. If you can see over here, the parents and favorite subject in school were ranked 1 and 2 with a mean of 3.36 and a mean of 3.26 respectively. This satisfies Agapau's attitude and preference factor. If you can see at the bottom, we have the least favorite subject in school and high school guidance counselors as the least influences when it came to career decision making. This was not evident in the study as the study proved otherwise. The study proved that there was no correlation between a favorite subject and a teacher that could be derived. The influences of teachers and guidance counselors were the least influential according to the respondents. The career success factors were ranked according to the relative importance index. The relative importance index states that the sum of W over A plus N equals to the relative importance index, where W is the weighting, the factors from 1 to 5. A would be the maximum factor of 5, and N would be the total population. The numbers derived within the RII is 0 and 1. Factors within RII of between 0.8 and 1 were considered critical career success factors. Factors within RII of between 0.5 and 0.79 were considered moderately important career success factors. And factors within RII of between 0 and 0.49 were considered they were considered least important career success factors. If you can see here, the confidence and the ability to take risks were ranked first and second with 0.82 and 0.80 respectively. Those were considered critical career success factors. Upgrading educational qualifications and age were considered the least important career success factors, ranking at 9 and 10. Descriptive statistics for Hofstede's 6 dimensions of culture. Personal development and job satisfaction were ranked number 1 with a mean of 4.81, both of them. This satisfies Hofstede's long-term orientation dimension. Cultural beliefs and cultural differences also played an important role when it came to decision making. As you can see, we have a mean of 4 and 4.07 respectively. Socially useful job, rewarding self-fulfillment, and society were also ranked fairly high, but they were the least in the rankings. To conclude, globally, the construction industry is described as the most male-dominated industry in the world. The low representation of women in the industry still exists. Favorite subject in school and parents are found to have major influences on career choices of young females. Females are greatly influenced by their cultural upbringing. And lastly, confidence was the number 1 critical career success factor, closely followed by the ability to take risks. Recommendations: to establish recruitment possibilities to overcome the low numbers of women in the construction industry. Future research on high school girls' knowledge of the construction industry and their career influences could be adopted. And the development of strategies to assist the government in recruiting young girls in construction-related studies. I'll leave you with a quote: "You educate a man, you educate a man. You educate a woman, you educate a generation," by Brigham Young. Any questions?
Just 2 questions quickly. You mentioned apprentices earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
Were you looking at just professionals in the 3 industries, or were you looking at
the construction
more
industry?
blue-collar workers as well?
I was looking at the 3 sections: the architects and the quantity surveyors and the construction managers.
So it was definitely more professional level.
Yes,
okay.
definitely.
Okay. And then against the response rates by those 3 professions, you mentioned that only 7% of the respondents were
Construction
CMs.
managers, yes.
Was that because of the sample of construction managers that you actually asked? It wasn't that only 7% of them responded? Or? So it was based on because there were a lower portion actually asked?
Yes,
okay.
Definitely, yes.
Thank you.
Right, no question. Anita? Jan?
Thanks very much, ma'am. Good presentation. Yeah, the only, just tying on to what Ms. Dinter said, it's just, I think that a lot of the statements there relates to the entire construction industry, and you looked at the professional side of it. It'd be interesting to see what is representation of the profession, compared to the whole industry. Because I think, in all due respect, I think in certain areas of the industry, like on site working in general labour and those type of things, you might find that some women prefer not to get involved. So you might have that slightly skewed, but apart from that.
Professor Leroux?
I enjoyed the presentation, but I'd like to make possibly a very risky suggestion, and that is that the title of your research does not relate as much as it could to the scope of your research. Because if you look at your abstract and you look at the title, Women in Construction, Pioneering in a Man's World, that doesn't go halfway to describing the actual focus of your research. The focus of your research is the career expectations of female quantity surveyors, construction managers and architects in South Africa. And if you made that your title, immediately a lot of us would sit up straight and be really stimulated at the prospects of what you are going to say. When you start with your presentation, it becomes very stimulating. But the title makes one think, oh no, this has been going on for the last 80, 90 years.
Okay.
It's been written about in many, many journals. But the way you've researched it is not relevant to your title. Is it too late to change?
No, it's not, ma'am.
So if you look at the boss man, is it too late to change?
I actually liked the title.
Because you got it right here.
I thought it was great. It's a little bit of creativity in there.
The career expectations of, and you've got it in your first paragraph of your abstract, and immediately one sits back and says, oh, now we're going to get something new.
I thought we were going to say, oh, now we're going to get something nice with that, with the title that I already gave. But I understand what you're saying, ma'am.
No, the title that you've already given to the old age fraternity is something that they've known about for 100 years.
Okay.
But the title that you suggest in your first paragraph is one of here and now and future.
Okay.
Educating, as Brigham Young says, educating a generation, and not the one that's past, the one that's coming.
That's to come.
So it's just an idea.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.